John Wynn with my co-host Billete, and this is take it from here, Bill.
Bloomer Podcast.
Yeah, cheer.
Cheer. Welcome back, John.
Welcome back to you, Bill. So why don't you do us the honors of telling us what the show is going to be about this week, Bill?
All right. In this episode of the Doomer Bloomer Podcast, we're going to discuss Psychedelics Revisited, Tim Ferris in the Milken Institute, MDMA research and investment that he's been doing for the last 5 years, Urban Dictionary definition of what is woke and wokeness in movies and media. When do you think we will land on Mars? 2030 and beyond. California homelessness may potentially cause bubonic plague due to rat infestations. AOC in the squad, and will Donald Trump get reelected in 2020? My experiment of getting rid of social media for 30 days, no Facebook, Instagram, or Snapchat. Tragic death and loss, overdose, drugs and alcohol, etc. Some personal things have happened to me, people that I know, and how that can affect communities. Plastic straws versus paper, cost versus environmental, or people's wokeness crusades. And morning routines, like what is the best time to wake up? Should you eat breakfast, drink water, meditate, that sort of thing?
Exactly. And if I remember correctly, you are not a big fan of the breakfasts, as of I.
No, I don't have a big hunger in the morning. I usually don't eat my first meal till after 10 o'clock, and usually I push it till 1 p.m.
Yeah, same here. And I remember, like, so many people would tell me, "Oh man, the first meal of the day, breakfast, is the most important meal of the day." And my biology never felt that was the case. I always felt kind of, even when I was younger, when food had less of an impact on me, I never felt that great after a big breakfast. And now there's a lot of science backing up actually that it's not that great. You stop HGC production, human growth hormones. This is where it's at its peak, and as soon as you eat, you kind of kill your body's production of it, and that's what heals your body. That's what gives it strength, etc. But anyways, we're not here to teach a biology class or anything like that,
or introduction to ketosis.
Yeah, exactly. So besides like not eating breakfast, which I'm not a fan of either, let's just go through your routine, and I can go briefly into mine.
I wake up usually 5 o'clock in the morning, 5:30 at the latest on work days, and I use Sam Harris's meditation app, Waking Up with Sam Harris.
Awesome.
I use the 10-minute meditation every morning. I do yoga sometimes as well, stretch out my body. I like to drink water first thing in the morning just to get the digestive system kind of working and get rid of some toxins while I'm sleeping.
Mm-hmm. I'd like to ask you a question on that. I've heard that drinking like a good amount of water when you first wake up has like some other benefits besides like just like cleaning out toxins. Have you heard of any other reasons? It's kind of vague in my.
Well, you need to basically replenish your stores of water in your body almost constantly. And the more water you have, the more efficiently your body works, unless you reach a state of hypotension. So that's too much water.
Okay.
But I would say like half a liter to a liter the first half an hour of waking up has been beneficial for me.
Excellent. Like especially when it comes to your mood or your productive, your energy when it comes to being productive.
Just helps me wake up, get into a cycle. I have a 25-minute commute now, which is a lot longer than what I used to have. So I then by the time I get out the door, I usually have my to go cup. I drink black coffee because I'm a psycho.
Mm, yes.
Um,
That and waking up at 5 in the morning every day.
uh, and yeah, then I'm out the door, and I usually, depending how I'm feeling, I either listen to the radio, nothing at all, or I put an audiobook in my car.
Gotcha. Yeah, I've started listening to audiobooks more and more in the car. I like it. It's a different way and of ingesting information. Even compared to listening to an audiobook at home while you're driving, you have like a different type of consciousness, I guess, or alertness, and and it can be a very like good. It's almost meditative. Like sometimes I drive actually, kind of as a meditation routine, just to clear my mind, because like driving, especially when it's just to drive and there's no destination, I think it's like one of the best. um, your brain is alert, but it can be passive at the same time, which is is a good space to kind of like sort out stuff that sort out issues or problems you might have in your life at that time.
Well, and I use those 25 minutes to sometimes to mentally prepare for my day too, right?
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
can go through a mental checklist of the things that I want to do in the day, or the things that may give me adversity in the day,
yeah.
and it's just preparing myself mentally to face the day, right?
Definitely. That's kind of what I do. The most important thing. Um, my days start, especially when it's winter. I work remotely from home. Um, I have a business. I don't want to go into the industry or whatever, but I have a business, home based business. Plus, I do trading, stock trading, and there's a lot of adversity on both sides, that unforeseen bullshit that can happen on both sides of these two things that I do in the morning. So for me, recharging my positive energy in the morning is super important, and I'm actually probably going to get the app, the Sam Harris app. Like I said earlier, I really enjoyed the one guided meditation that I've been listening to on YouTube. I haven't listened to it in a while, but I really appreciated it. And I've actually kind of slacked off on some on certain rituals, especially in the morning. Probably just because I've been getting up a lot early. I usually get up at around 7. Before I used to wake up a little bit later, but it's like that extra hour, like at between 8 and 8:30. That extra hour kind of put me in a better headspace than waking up at 7. It's like I'm more sensitive to negativity when I wake. It's only 1 hour difference. It doesn't even matter if I had like a lot more sleep. If I went to bed, say at 3 in the morning or 2 in the morning, and woke up at 8, and I would go to bed at midnight and woke up at 7, for some reason I feel I'm more susceptible to negative bullshit in my day. So I think I'm going to try the Sam Harris meditation. But usually, if I don't do that, I try to be as give myself at least a 15-20 minutes of just relaxing and kind of doing what you do, where you kind of prepare what you need to do during your day. And a lot of days there's like some more difficult stuff you need to deal with, but you kind of prepare your brain that, okay, this is a part of my job, and I'll stay positive regardless, and all that. And getting that positive boost early on in the morning is very important. And I think one of the reasons why I might have lost that a bit is because of trading, actually. uh, when I wake up at 7, the markets will only start. They start at 7:30 my time, because I'm Mountain Time. And when I get too invested in the markets and I don't give my time to breathe, I'm just like looking at the market as soon as I wake up, and my brain is already trying to make like what decisions I should make, and just anticipating all the fluctuations of or even checking the fluctuations of the market. And it's like giving your body a dose of stress right away as you wake up. And yeah, I think I should at least spend 15-20 minutes like I used to do not so long ago, just silence and preparing myself for the day instead of just like looking at charts and calculating a million things.
I can 10 out of 10 recommend.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think I'm going to get the app after. Thanks, Bill.
You are welcome, John.
Yeah. So, regardless of our little stresses and crap we have to deal with on a daily life, it's nothing compared to some of the people that are on the streets right now, especially in places like California, but even Vancouver, right?
That's a more local spin on it. Yep. East Hastings.
Yeah, East Hastings, or even in Surrey, where I used to live. I don't know if you ever saw the Strip in Surrey, but it's basically like a condensed version of East Hastings on like one street. But it's one of the most ghetto things I've seen all my life in Canada, and I've seen some pretty ghetto stuff in my life in ghetto areas. Even lived in especially on the East Coast and stuff. But yeah, I mean, like I've never seen tent cities like I've seen out in BC, just like crazy dirty tent cities.
We don't have the cold weather out here like they do back east.
Exactly.
The cold weather, they either find indoor shelter or they die of exposure, unfortunately.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly, but it's also, I think, just more, it's definitely the main reason in my opinion, but it's also that, first of all, it's way more expensive out there than down east.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, on the West Coast, you're talking, if you include Vancouver, and you're talking, what's the other two cities? San Francisco is the other one.
San Francisco and Los Angeles. It's all the same problem. It's all about like San Francisco and Vancouver are the two most overvalued real estate markets in North America. They're like twin cities, actually.
Oh yeah.
Well, they are twin cities, and they So in the U.S., the most overvalued real estate market is San Francisco, and here in Canada, it's Vancouver. I mean, I think in Vancouver or in BC, a welfare check is something like maybe $700 or $800. You can't. I mean, you can't get anything under that. And if you like it was actually in the news, like a den, no windows or anything, just enough to fit like a single twin bed, and like a small twin bed and a little desk, and that's it. It was like $1,000.
Well, you could basically rent a closet.
Yeah, it was basically a closet for $1,000. I mean, it's completely ridiculous. I mean, if a welfare check is $700-800, how can you expect? And plus, over there, you gotta put first and last month's down payment, security deposit. So there's no way, even if like someone was lucky to find $500 flat, like a room somewhere.
Well,
which doesn't exist.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah, I mean that's still $1,000 you got to put you got to put a down payment on. So it's really hard. It's next to impossible once you're in that downward spiral, and they're both areas with the highest IV drug use, like fentanyl and heroin and meth and all that stuff. I've seen a lot of drug related shit down east in Ottawa, Quebec City, Montreal, Toronto, but I've never seen the extent of how it is in on the West Coast.
Well, they're calling it a crisis, right?
Oh yeah, it's definitely a crisis. It's not even an exaggeration.
You know, it's a health crisis. And this is kind of a nice segue into what I wanted to talk about. Is in my community, it's a very small town, 1,000 people. When somebody dies in a small town like that from one of these substances, it creates quite the ripple effect. Even if you didn't really know the person directly, you probably knew their family member or or their parent or one of their brothers or sisters, and you know their absence leaves quite an impact, and it's something that doesn't get talked about that often. Um, and yeah, I just kind of wanted to make mention of that, just because it was a recent incident not too long ago with a girl from that I went to high school with,
Hmm.
and she just got into a bad crowd, and she's very smart. She's university educated. She had a full ride scholarship, and she
Oh
has
wow.
good parents, people who cared about her, loved her, and she had a place to go if she needed to. And she just, like you said, got into a downward spiral. Was and then got it laced with some bad substance,
Yeah.
and yeah, she went into a coma and then died just about 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. Unlike the typical version of what we imagine of someone that would end up like that, it's not like some problem teenager that had bad parents or
Well,
very
they're
bad relationship or whatever, not educated, dumb in class and all that ended up uh, dying 10 years later. We're talking about a model person, model student. I mean, to be sponsored, to get a full university scholarship. I mean, she had to be a really good student.
yeah, she wasn't a dumb girl, and
Yeah,
she she even had a beach body fitness coaching business on the side, sort of thing. The last time I
yeah,
heard from her. So, she had a lot of good things going for her, and she had a lot of friends and people that cared about her, but maybe
yep,
deep down at her core, there was something that she wasn't happy about in herself, or a family situation, or even potentially a relation. It's hard to say, right? Like people make choices, right?
yep.
Um,
Well, I can tell you this: I've never delved into. I've tried multiple things in my life, but I've never went into opiates, just because from the literature I read, it's something that you can get addicted to way too easily. I mean, and I've seen that even through drugs or substances that are considered benign, be it weed or whatever, or alcohol or whatnot. I'm not saying alcohol is benign or anything like that, but compared to heroin or other substances like that, um, I mean, it was hard for me to stop. It took a lot of willpower for me to stop using when it got out of control. So I can only imagine how it would be with opiates. And I remember waking up from an operation at one point. I had some eye surgery, and they gave me a shot of morphine. And when I got that shot of morphine, I understood right then and there how people can get so addicted to this. Like it is like you're in pain, and then you're almost thankful that you had that pain because you're like because you feel so good. I'm like, oh wow, I had to go through this pain to have this feeling right now. That's like I had two shots of morphine in my life, and the second was after a kidney, well, during a kidney stone. I went to the hospital for that a few years back, and I mean, I was in agony, one of the worst pains I ever felt. And once I got that shot, this is the second time I got a shot. Those actually were my thoughts at that time. Um, it was like, wow, was almost worth it. So imagine someone that does that only like 10 times, maybe. You think it's no big deal, 10, 15 times. I can only imagine after that. I think if I would have had a few more shots of those, I would have become addicted.
It's easy to go down a path that way, because it starts so so small, so innocuously.
Yeah.
You have an incident or an accident where your body's super hurt, and yeah, and then it's very innocent, and then all of a sudden it's not anymore.
Exactly. Or it could be like she's in a party, she had a few drinks and all that, and someone she has a really good a really cool relationship with, either a guy she's dating or a close friend or whatever. Hey, let's try this. You're in a party, you're not thinking much about that. Um, and she tries it, and it's one of the best feelings she ever had, and the next day she feels great, no damage done or whatever. So she does it again. And just like you say, I mean, it's a very insidious thing. Like the line of when it's too much or harmless, a harmless once in a while thing, to it's becoming a serious problem is very hard to see, especially when you're in the middle of it.
Well, that's addiction.
Yeah. And yeah, and the worst thing is, it that's the thing, like your addiction affects so many people around you. And I can only imagine what your that person, like,
Well,
it's a small community, right?
I bumped into her sister but her cousin and extended family just the other day, and they're just completely
Devastated.
devastated. Like they don't even know what to say. Like it's even hard to have a conversation with them, because what do you say to them? It's like, oh no, now
Yeah,
they're
there's
just
no words.
they're just gone. Like I'm sorry for your loss, but it really doesn't really do it justice, I don't think.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of times I'll give you an example. One of my good friends, when I was growing up, he died in 2009, and I talked to his mom on the phone in 2016. My mom and his mom became really good friends, kind of when we became friends, because of our shenanigans growing up. Brought our two moms together, I guess. um, so his mom wrote me a message maybe a couple months before that, asking me my address, and she wanted to send me some pictures and some a few things that he had, and if I wanted them. And I'm like, yes, I mean, I'd like to have a memory of one of my best friends growing up. I have his cross like hanging off my bed frame and all that. um so she taught she when we spoke on the phone, she was telling, we did speak about that. And this was in 2016, so this was 7 years later. She was still devastated. She had to I was doing my best to reassure her. She felt guilty. She felt that she didn't do what she could have done. And I know the situation. I was there for a lot of the times, like, where she was like actually putting fault on herself. And even though he was one of my good friends, she didn't have she didn't have to have all that blame on her. And 7 years later, like, she still broke down on the phone. And so fuck, I can only imagine like when it's fresh like that in these smaller communities, because like people die every day in the bigger cities. No one blinks an eye. It's like, oh, it's so crazy, so many people are dying, but no one really doesn't touch anyone.
Well, it's more personal in the smaller town,
Yep.
just
Yeah,
because
it
everyone
is.
knows each other, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, in a big city, it's very easy to create like your own little bubble. In a smaller town, it's like what can happen to someone can happen to someone else. There's not like these intellectual walls between one another like there is in bigger cities. What happens to the Smiths can easily happen to the Jones,
Yeah.
right? Because like the Jones and the Smiths are not that different from each other. And in a big city, it's like people don't even know their neighbors a lot of times.
Well, yeah, because it's easier just to put your headphones on and your sunglasses on and not
It's kind of what
engage
I do here in Edmonton.
not engage with people, because when you engage with people, that's when you tend you when you let people in, there's always an opportunity to get hurt.
Yep. Yeah, there's always I'll say like George Carlin. From what he says in one of his bits is like, from what I've said over the years, a lot of people have the wrong impression that I hate people. I don't hate people. I just like them in small spurts, like a minute and a half. Then
Yeah.
people equal bullshit.
I agree with George Carlin.
Yeah, I think you do more than me, actually.
John has seen me literally walk away from people when they're talking.
Yeah, and a peace and love festival like Shambhala, where everyone's supposed to be like overtly love, peace, and happiness. It doesn't matter. Like a skinhead and a woke person could be like, "Oh, I love you, man. Oh, I love you too."
Bill's
You
like,
know?
I'm gonna go get a taco. Peace.
Yeah. Yeah.
Woke. Let's look at the Urban Dictionary definition.
Yeah.
So I looked up woke AF, or woke as fuck.
Yeah.
I maybe it's not the greatest, but I'll work with it. Knowing everything is an illusion of the mind, mainly the more extreme version of woke, encapsulating higher dimensional and abstract thought. One achieves this woke philosophy after ingesting very high doses of DMT, mushrooms, or other hallucinogenic substances.
Yeah, Bill, I'm gonna stop you right there. That's not the woke word. I guess you can. That's how I used to envision it. That's more like the
that's the
enlightened
that's
version.
the enlightened woke. Okay, so that's one version.
We're talking.
What's your current understanding of woke?
Well, the woke we're talking about is how it's people that say they are woke is that they're so far beyond most people when it comes to understanding all these progressive issues like race relationships and what's that word they use a lot? Intersectionality between race, sexual identification and orientation.
Okay.
Ethnicity and all that. It's basically the far leftist moral high ground, if you will.
Far leftist moral high ground. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, it's where they think they've woken up. It's like their version of the red pill.
Oh, okay.
They've woken up to the reality of all the racism and sexism and transphobia and homophobia and all that in society, and they're super aware of it. So a woke person, if a girl you knew was woke as fuck, and it's a Halloween party, and some white girl came in with a geisha costume.
That's cultural.
Her being woke as
appropriation.
The woke as fuck girl would be like, "Oh my god, that's cultural appropriation."
Oh my god.
Yeah, how offensive that is! You should take that off because you're mocking and culturally appropriating something from Japan, something like that. Cowboys would be offensive because they're like a symbol of the patriarchy and white supremacy, etc., etc. So that's just an example of wokeness, how the way I've been seeing it lately.
Okay, just to clarify. Okay, cool.
Yeah. So I'm sure you can find something on Urban Dictionary with that.
Probably, but it probably won't be that urban.
All right.
Yeah, I tried earlier, and that wasn't what I thought it was. So we'll just go with that.
Oh, okay.
We'll call
Okay.
it Jonathan's version of Urban Dictionary.
Well, no, it's not my version. Trust me, it's not my
It's not
version.
your-
But the version, no, I'm dissociating myself of like labeling what's woke or what's not woke. This is from what I've been seeing all over. But to me, like what I would actually like to be my version is like the first, someone that's taken psychedelics and meditates and actually has awakened their mind to the, I guess, higher realities of you know of existence,
Yeah.
that doesn't see, that's broken through the day-to-day programming from school and society and culture and all that, and have gone beyond that. To me, that's a lot. I prefer that definition of woke, and I'd like to identify anything I have to do with the meaning as, I'd like to reappropriate wokeness to that, if you will.
Okay.
Right? So wokeness today, it's this far leftist moral high ground.
Far leftist moral high ground.
Yeah. Oh, I'm aware of all the injustices.
Like, for example, plastic straws versus paper straws. What's up with that?
Yeah, what's up with that?
It's
Bill?
a
I think your girlfriend has a perspective on that.
well.
Why don't you woke us up on that?
I will woke the people, John.
Woke him up.
Woke them up. It costs more money to have paper straws. I think it's 13 cents versus 3 cents per straw. So you're looking at a 10 cents per straw difference. So imagine you're in the restaurant industry and you have to order straws by the thousands, right? 10 cents on the dollar makes a lot of difference when you're trying to do profit margins. Just because somebody is going to comes up to you and says, "Oh, I don't want to use these plastic straws because they're going to go straight to the landfill."
Mm-hmm.
Paper straws, they're biodegradable and they break down when you put them in the environment. So that would be an example of a woke person. Usually, I'm not stereotyping here, but I would definitely associate wokeness in the current climate as somebody who is also probably a vegan, likely into the LGBTQ community, or like a queer support. I'm not saying, like, I'm just saying that is probably their whole jam.
Yeah, the hardcore environmentalists,
Save the whales, man.
/ vegan.
Save the whales.
Yeah. Like hippies. Hippies are like a hybrid of like the old definition of wokeness and the newer version. But yeah, like when we get back to the straw situation here, from what I've heard, I think it actually produces it because, like, look, paper straws, they're paper straws, right? We have to cut down trees for that. And don't we need machines that guzzle like a whole bunch of gasoline and use oil and all that to cut down those trees
and water?
We need to use, yeah, exactly. And don't we need to use like a whole bunch of water and chemicals and all that to break down the pulp to make these paper straws.
So which is more environmental impact?
So what has a bigger impact? I mean, look, if straws are really causing a big impact on the environment and that's a simple solution, then go for it. But how much of this I saw a John Stossel video a few months back about this subject. It's like almost a year ago. And like the conclusion I got from that little segment there was that it's completely ridiculous. Now it's been a long time, so I can't like quote any proper facts. I don't want to say, I don't want to spew like anything on there, but like the impression I had, it was like a ridiculous thing to do. It had more negative impacts than good impacts. and for whatever small environmental impact, in a positive way, it had like larger negative impacts. I should have watched that video before doing this, but
we'll link it in the description.
yeah, exactly. I don't know. I think it's I think like these moral crusades are just like little hobbies like these people are having. I really don't know if you know, from what I'm seeing, like these politicians are just going, they're just like surfing these waves of outrage, and they're trying to capitalize on that.
Well,
And I think that's one
isn't
of
there
them.
a video with Justin Trudeau talking about what do you do to help the environment? And he's just like fumbling over his words about trying to spit out plastic bottles. Have you seen that? I've seen that
No.
on social media back before my hiatus.
Yeah, yeah.
We plastic
Speaking of which, yeah, go ahead.
plastic bottles. We plastic bottle. He was having a really hard time trying to saying the word plastic bottles.
Yeah, he's like, fuck, it's my kryptonite. Plastic bottles.
BPA, man.
The,
BPA free.
the woke, yeah, the woke people will hate me, and that's my base.
Yes, I have taken a hiatus from social media.
Yeah, how do you feel?
Better for the most part.
Yeah, you didn't wish me happy birthday
No.
on my Facebook.
That's right.
It saddened me immensely.
Yeah, I didn't leave you a rude comment about your birthday.
Yeah, there was like one piece of the puzzle missing, and it was your happy birthday.
How many?
You know? I was like, "Where's?"
How many happy birthday wishes did you get?
I got enough. Let's just say that.
So you got your dopamine hits, eh?
I got a few.
Oh yeah,
but you always want more.
Always, yeah. No, I've decided to wean myself from that area.
From that
distraction.
Information guzzler from hell.
Well, I haven't found a lot of personal use and value of having Facebook or social media anymore. I mean, I've been on it to close to just over 10 years. I used to post pictures to Facebook. I used to be more active on my Instagram account. But I've
never used Instagram.
I just feel like it's become a cesspool of idiocracy, and I just don't. The only reason I would use Instagram now is probably to use it as a business tool, to be honest with you.
That's the only reason why I got an Instagram account.
Because I could use it as a way to promote my business or be an influencer or something like that. That's the only reason I think I would have it.
You want to be an influencer?
Yeah, that's right. I do.
On Instagram?
With the Doomer Bloomer Instagram account, okay?
Yeah. But sorry, because I just saw Crystalia rant on his podcast about influencers, Instagram influencers, especially like the who's,
the Insta hoes.
The Instagram who's, you're whoring.
Insta hoes. See previous podcast.
Yeah, he's like, if you're showing your butt, but in a way that, you know, if you're looking sideways from the camera, eating a sandwich, but like showing off your ass at the same time, you're whoring.
You're whoring. You're whoring.
You're whoring.
You're whoring.
And the logic is like, well, you know, likes and followers is the new currency. Well, that's, you know, that proves my point right there. You're whoring. If you're doing all that, if you're being sexually explicit to get likes and followers, you're whoring.
You're whoring.
You start the hashtag unfollow.
Hashtag unfollow.
So whenever you see a chick like trying to do like, oh, I don't even know the camera's there, but it's so obvious that it's like super manufactured and all that. And they're doing something, oh my God, I'm eating soup. How silly how silly am I type of thing. Yeah, you're eating. Well, you do hashtag the unfollow on the unfollowing.
The unfollow. I like that.
We yeah yeah we got to stop the well, it's because like there's so many thirsty males, man.
Yes.
Like so many women are doing stupid shit. It's not even at some point it's not even their fault. If you have like so many sycophantic males just say, "Oh, everything you do is so great." I respect the woman
Respect the woman.
and what you and you're one of the best women I've ever seen. I mean, heard about or like heard
Heard.
because I respect you so much that what I see doesn't matter. It's what you have to say. Like the soup you're eating is me eating the soup right now is so silly.
Hashtag soup.
Hashtag yes, hashtag soup. Oh my god, it's so good.
Hashtag burn my tongue.
Oh my god. Yeah, OMG. Yeah. We should definitely link that Crystalia video.
Crystalia will be
Yeah.
linked in the description.
Yeah. It's
Yeah,
hilarious.
whoring.
You're whoring. Yes. Well, it's the new currency, likes and followers. Exactly. You're whoring. At least a street whore gets some cold hard cash,
Into her BTC account.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so that's why I kind of laughed when you said being an influencer. I don't want to be an influencer.
I do.
Just because of that video. Just because of that video, I ain't being an influencer. I don't want to be associated.
I want to be an Insta. I want to be an Insta whore now.
Yeah,
I'm gonna do a whole. I'm doing a whole 180 on my whole. No Facebook, no Instagram. I'm gonna.
All right. You should like. Oh, man, you know what you should do? You should like. It's been done before, but you should like take like some of the biggest YouTube, not YouTube, but Instagram. Instagram influencers or celebrities, the females, and you should just do the same hashtags and same poses, like a girl that's like.
I should. That would be funny as fuck.
It would. So every every girl that like kind of like, writes something like the hustle is real type of thing, and she's just like she's laying on the
eating
beach,
soup.
Eating soup on the beach, just like with her legs open in a way that's like,
provocative or shit.
You should do oh yeah, you should because like the way they do it, like, let's be real, they're good looking women. They can get away with it because there's so many thirsty people out there. They'll be like, oh yeah, it's all good. But if you do it, it would be fucking hilarious.
I think I could,
or we could get. Yeah, go.
Well, I just feel like we have to start the Doomer Boomer Instagram account now, just so I could do this.
Yeah. the anti-influencers.
Exactly.
We defluence.
Defluence.
Instagram defluencers. So you feel good? No Instagram, no Facebook?
For now. It's been about 21 days, so since the 1st of July. So.
Yeah. Oh, nice.
I don't know. I have some urges. I'm not going to lie. Occasionally I want to go on there and go check my messenger.
Mm-hmm.
But for the most part, I feel pretty good about not being on there.
Good stuff. Well, it's good to disconnect. I did it with YouTube for a week, and that's a lot for me. No music videos, no like podcasts or anything like that. That's where I get most of my media, and it was good. Your brain will just automatically tend to focus on different other things besides Insta hoes and
soup.
And soup and the likes. So I probably won't do. I don't go on social media enough, anyways. At this point, where I think I need um, to cut it out of my life. But I take breaks voluntarily. A lot of times I'm like, no, you could be doing something better than scrolling through this bullshit, because it goes fast. Like sometimes I will catch myself and it's like, wow, I've been like half an hour not enjoying this at all. Just saying, oh, that's funny. And then moving on. Oh, bullshit, bullshit, bullshit. Oh, you know, and then you look at the time. It's like, it's been half an hour I've been doing this. Nothing constructive at all came out of this.
Well,
So
yeah.
then I'll be like, yeah. So I definitely get what you're
Well,
saying with that.
I look at it as a passive activity. It's not an active activity where you're consuming rather than producing. And I try to look for opportunities to be more in a productive flow rather than a consuming flow. You know,
Yeah, I
if
hear you.
there's the biggest thing nowadays is people don't know how to be bored. In the 90s, when you were bored, that's when the most creative things started happening. Like that's when I started making zip lines in my backyard and making my brother test them. You know,
Yeah.
that's when I used to go for 3 hour bike rides and just go off
It got you to
go off the
move.
grid. Now, you know, people are sedentary more. They're sitting down more. There's no incentive for them to break out of their comfort zones. You know, there's
That is
always
true.
the constant stream of the data, information, Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook, whatever. There's always something that's in front of them that's distracting their attention. And
Yeah, there's always something there. There's always something like within an arm's reach of you that even if you're not going to feel great, you'll still feel bored, but it will numb it just enough for you to just continue checking stuff on your phone. You know, one Facebook post will lead you to something else, it will lead you to something else, to lead you to a video or a blog post or whatever. And, you know, nothing. And like you say, it's passive. It's like I can see it in YouTube. I remember when I first started using YouTube, I would type in like every video I watched, it was me typing in something in the search bar, like looking for something in particular. I had an idea. Oh, I'd like to learn about this, and I type it in. Oh, I'd like to hear this song, and I type it in. Um, as After a few years, it was like I was looking. I had a lot of channel subscriptions, so I would like look at all the new content that my subscriptions that I chose would put out. Now I don't even go through that. I'm so like my brain is so lazy. I just go, oh, recommended videos. And most of the time, these recommended videos, I'm like, yo, I've already seen some shit like that. I want something new. Instead of typing it in, like my first reflex is just to refresh the recommended videos. I won't even, it's almost like, oh wow, I'm typing something in the search bar because I'm actually looking for
yeah,
something
I don't let
on
I
my
don't let
own.
Google look at my search history anymore.
Oh, okay.
It's turned off.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, it's getting pretty. Did you hear about the? We haven't talked. We didn't even talk about this pre notes, pre podcast or anything. But Google has like some cameras set up all across Toronto and different public spaces, just gathering data on the population in
Well,
Toronto.
yeah.
To
And they got into yeah,
yeah,
go
and
ahead.
it's go ahead. No,
Well,
finish
it kind
what
of
you were gonna
segues
say.
into like Google Home and Alexa, right? Because those have microphones
Yeah,
that are on all of the time. Unless you go into the settings and be like, "Do not monitor me unless I say okay Google," right? But those
yeah,
microphones are on in
yeah.
the background all the time.
Yeah.
Even applications on your phone that have access to your microphone do the same thing.
Yeah. Oh yeah, your phone is probably recording everything all
You
the
know,
time, man.
and then all of a sudden you'll start getting these targeted ads. It's like, what? Well, I didn't look at anything about, suicide, and all of a sudden you're
Yeah.
targeting an ad for suicide. What? Just
Yeah.
just do it as an experiment. Just for a day, just talk about dogs and dog care and dog grooming or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah. No,
And then look at your phone the next day and see whether you get a targeted ad.
it's pretty strange. I do admit there's been a few times that I'm like, okay, is this because I searched something earlier, then talked about it, or is it because I talked about it and then this is being presented to me? I don't want to go either way. I don't, I'm skeptical but very open minded about like the reality of this. But what we do know for sure, like from Julian Assange, is that already the government, everything that's been done online for years, um, all the metadata is they captured it all, and now they say they don't do it anymore. But like whatever, it's very easy to be skeptical about that. Now, the companies that actually profit on that data think they're not collecting all the metadata
Well,
that's
that's
going on.
again one
I
of the
mean,
reasons.
it's very very
It's
probable.
again one of the reasons why I really don't want to be on Facebook anymore.
Yeah. But I mean, what are you going to do? Like, to me, like, ever since I saw Enemy of the State, I saw that, like, this is like a late 90s movie with Will Smith. It was all about how, like, the government was, like, could do anything and track everything and do anything they wanted because everything was being, like, this was like the beginning of the internet age, right? And it seemed revolutionary, but I'm like, yo, this is like straight up what's going on right now. Like that's the way I saw it. I even remember when I first got, like when I first started using the internet a lot more regularly. It wasn't just like once in a while at the library or at some friend's place. It was at my mom's. I think this is like in 2001. I was I mean, I'd give fake names on my emails and stuff like that. I would never enter my real name and all that. But I mean, I'm like, what's the point? They already have all this stuff. I mean, if they really want to target you, they can target you easy just because you use a fake name or whatever. They're uh that's the way I see it at this point. I mean, if they want to fuck me over from what I've done uh online, from what I've said, like that's been recorded without my permission. At this point, it's almost like they can do that to anyone, right? I mean, everyone has said some crazy shit. Everyone um, has done some stuff or looked at stuff or
Wow.
whatever that could be, especially if you spin it in a
But
certain way,
nowadays,
that could be
but
devastating.
nowadays, John,
Yeah.
those outbursts have the potential to go viral. Like there was a girl, a woman
Yeah.
recently that Snapchatted her kid in the doctor's office who put the tongue compressor on Snapchat, and then people screenshotted and shared that Snapchat, and it went viral on Facebook. The She was just pissing around in the doctor's office with her Snapchat, and she had the daughter put the tongue compressor back in the same vial, and
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
literally destroyed that woman and that family from like
Yeah.
a very
Yeah.
innocent Snapchat, right at the time. So
Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
that's how quickly things have changed in the last 10, 15 years.
Yeah, okay, in that sense, yeah. Well, that's why I don't use social media that much, or I don't post too much on Facebook or whatever. In that sense, yeah. I mean, if it's like it's like exposing yourself more than necessary when it comes. But if I go back to my point that I'm not gonna do anything on any of these platforms by fear of being spied on or whatnot. I mean, I don't know. I don't see how like it would stop it. Like if you weren't even like that girl wasn't on Instagram. It was like some other person just like Instagramming that situation, someone completely unrelated to that girl that just saw what
Well, they
happened, right?
saw she shared the Snapchat to her Snapchat stories, and then that story went
Oh,
and
okay.
was recorded and got viral without her
Yeah.
consent or approval, or because these are mega
Yeah.
corporations that have access to your intimate personal details of your life, right? Whether you want
Yeah.
them to or not, you're going through their servers. And they're in another
Yep.
country most often. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah. And like the thing with Snapchat is, even if with a Snapchat, if like it has a window of time that it says like 10 seconds,
Yeah.
7 seconds, Snapchat can go back, and if the police want that information for an investigation, they have to give it to them.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's that simple.
Yeah. Well, I know Apple at one point had some issues with the FBI because they the FBI were asking them to unlock an accused an
Yeah.
accused phone iPhone, and they didn't want to do it. It's like one of the few times I gave Apple props, for sticking to their guns about like privacy and stuff like that. I thought it was pretty stand up. But I mean, most companies, if you put pressure, like Apple can kind of afford all the fallback from that. But a smaller company, well, I'm not saying like Snapchat is small or Instagram and all that. They're pretty, I mean, they're part of Facebook now.
Well, yeah, Snapchat's a
But
multi-billion-dollar
I
company now.
mean, yeah. I mean, but yeah, it's like, it's crazy. It is crazy how like all these things can go on, like what can happen with all this stuff. And sometimes I say, if it, I guess my divergence in point with you is that it's so pervasive, it's so everywhere that I kind of just put my I'm almost just like putting my head in the sand. I know like all the potential dangers. I use all these things sparingly, but I don't want to start getting like paranoid about the
Well,
shit. But I am thinking of getting a VPN
oh,
and some
I
firewalls
use
and all that
yeah,
to
VPN
actually.
is a must. I use VPN all the time. I've had VPNs for years. But I'm like more of like going into like that the like going, do you know what going Galt is?
No,
Going
no
Galt
idea.
is like when you completely disconnect from the society you're in. Like you have no outstanding debts, you have all your money in cash, in like hard assets
Oh
like
yeah,
gold
yeah,
or
yeah,
silver, blah blah blah. You have
yeah,
basically a prepper's mentality. Like you have stockpiles of food, potentially
yeah.
weapons.
And you renounce like your
Well, you
citizenship or
renounce your
something
social
like that.
security, right? So you don't have to pay taxes, right? So if
Yeah,
you're not producing or having a traditional sort of business anymore, where you have employees they have to pay, that's taxable, that goes back to the government. If you're just
yeah,
completely, for lack of a better word, going off grid, it's called going Galt.
yes. Oh, okay. Yeah, I always saw it as going
Yeah.
permanently off the grid.
And and that
Oh,
is and it's probably because I live in such a northern isolated environment, because it would be a lot easier to do that here, because people hunt and fish,
oh
and
yeah.
we have access to uh, resources you don't get in the city, right? I don't necessarily have to
Hmm.
rely on the grocery store. If I grow my own garden, I grow my own food, I preserve it, can it in the wintertime, I don't have to go to a grocery store.
Yeah,
Full
full
Galt, going
galt.
Galt is what that's called. I watched a
I actually, when I was a kid, actually, my dad, with a friend of his, they went into the woods for like an excursion. It might have been for small game hunting or something. and they met a hermit. We call them the hermit, and that's basically what he did. He went Galt. He lived there year round. He managed to get some groceries dropped off every like 3-4 months or something. Most of it he just like trapped and shot, and fished, and he lived in what's called Les Monts Valin, which is in the Saguenay region, some mountainous region over there. And yeah, that's what he did. That's the only person I think I really met that went that was full Galt. I remember him eating supper with us because my dad invited him, and he ate like a savage. Like I really remember like him eating very differently than all the other adults. Like I wasn't like I really didn't care about like manners and stuff like that when I was that age, and I was like, whoa, he eats worse than I do.
Hey, Dad, who's this bum you invited to dinner?
But he was cool, man. He had like this. I don't know. I remember he was flirting with my grandma, man. My grandma was there too.
Really? That's fucking old.
Yeah, he was an old dude. He was like at least late 50s, if not early 60s. And I don't recall how many years, but it was like multiple years that he was living like
Well,
that.
it's just
And
like you know what a trapper is, like the mad trapper.
yeah, well, they'll trap beavers and stuff
Well,
like that for like fur and meat and all
exactly.
that,
I
right?
have a similar story of from my hometown of a gentleman that did the same thing. He had a trap line far up the lake, and he basically lived there almost year round. He would come out in the springtime and stuff to get
Yeah,
provisions, and then in the fall he'd go back to the trapping cabin. And that was his
yeah,
life, and he didn't really. It was a
yeah,
subsistence life. He didn't really have to pay taxes or anything like that. He lived completely off the grid.
yeah. Just like the Unabomber, right?
Just like the Unabomber. My hero, the Unabomber.
uh,
Not really. That was a joke.
you know this great scientist. Well, he actually did live like that for a while. The Unabomber like went off the grid. What's the word again?
Gunter
Gunter. No, what's the word for living off the
going
grid?
Galt. It's named after
Galt.
it's named after the
Galt.
guy who did it, Charles Galt, I believe. Charles
Oh, okay,
Galt,
gotcha.
Galt. I will make a link to it too. Going going Galt.
Yeah, and like, look, I'm not associating being going Galt is equal to Unabomber. I'm just saying the Unabomber did go Galt for a while. Like for years
John
actually.
Galt. Pardon me.
And
John Galt.
like
John Galt is a character in Ayn Rand's novel Atlas Shrugged. He is not identified by that name until the last third of the novel. Okay, so that's where it comes from. Going
gotcha.
Galt.
You think you'll ever go Galt?
Ultimately, John, that's my life goal. Yeah, I think we've
Really?
talked about this.
Well, I didn't know it was going completely off the
Oh yeah.
grid. Oh
not
wow.
in not yeah not in like the traditional sense, but I would be most, I think, at home living in a cabin in the woods.
Hmm. I definitely want a cabin in the woods as a retreat, but I don't know. I always like to think that I'm still participating
Well,
in the
you
world.
like people more than I do, to be honest.
I guess. I guess. Well, it's not only liking people, because like I've been here in Edmonton for a year and a half now, and uh, besides the people I've met at Toastmasters, I haven't really sought to make any friends or anything. I'm content with the little social the little social connect the few social connections I have all across the country. All right. I'm content with that. But when I'm out, yeah, I do like making connections. I just like knowing that there's all kinds of discoveries and opportunities all around at all times, and that I can participate that in that if I do choose to. And I think it would be a lot harder to even know what's going on if I went full Galt.
But that to me, that's the beauty of it.
Yeah, and that's why I would like eventually I'll probably will have a cabin or something, because the beauty, like, to me, it's good to have periods like that. But I'm a very cyclical person. There's times where I feel saturated. Anything that's business related, I just don't want. I don't want to hear about any other invoices or potential deals or new customers or whatever. I just don't want to deal with any of that bullshit, because I kind of had like my fill of it, and I need to retreat a bit. But then after that, the ideas come back in, and I just wanna go full steam ahead. And
I personally
go
feel
into
this
it.
year that's what I've missing the most, is that I take usually 3 days to a week, and I just go spend it by myself. And I have been
Mm-hmm.
really at the
Wow.
mercy of other people's schedule this year, and it's actually really starting to upset me a bit.
Yeah. Well, I do feel that at least I'm in control of my schedule to to a certain degree. I mean, I can say no if I don't want to. I might suffer financial consequences. It could be losing a customer, or losing one particular deal, or missing a stock opportunity or something like that. But I do have the choice to say no, and there's still opportunity for me the next day. Contrary to most people, where if they say no to their boss or their company, then, well, it's like, go
They
fuck yourself,
don't
get
have
out
a
of here,
job anymore.
right? Exactly. And that's a stress. I've been through those stresses. And yeah, I that's the type of thing that would make me want to go Galt.
Right?
For real.
But everybody has
Yeah,
their
no, I hear you.
concept of what makes them happy or content, right?
Yeah. But like I said, I feel you, just because, like, even right now when you talk about it, um, like how I've been feeling this week about the stresses of business and trading and all that, and feeling saturated about that. It's like I have to disconnect myself from that. But I guess I'm a lot similar to Tim Ferriss. If you recall, in like the 4-hour work week, he talks about like his periods of like hyper productivity and then not wanting to do anything, but then he has to be super productive again, right? I'm very similar to that. I always compare myself to like a cheetah. I can give like a really big outburst of high productive energy, but then I have to rest. I have to disconnect, or else I'll burn out.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned Tim
Unfortunately.
Ferriss, because as you might have known or not known, since 2015, he's an angel investor, right? He was an angel investor in Twitter and some other tech companies, but he
Instagram, I
also
think also.
well he didn't divest, but he switched focus from tech companies into psychedelic research.
Yeah, I know,
And
that's awesome.
he's been on a panel in May, and there's going to be a link in the description of the video for the podcast. But he was at the Milken Institute, and it was a panel of people in different diverse fields talking about trying to, and this has been in previous podcasts, but they're trying to decriminalize the use of psilocybin for depression.
Yep.
Um,
Oh, which they
and
definitely should.
it's almost to the point where the FDA is leaning towards it. But what has to happen is business has to get involved in order to make a viable
Mm-hmm.
commercial model, whether it's a medical model
Okay.
or a recreational model or some combination of the two. But until business
Yeah.
gets involved, it's still going to be a taboo area, because technically possessing them or trafficking or selling these substances is still considered an offense, right? It's a criminal offense, even
Yep.
though they're doing these studies that are positively showing that, you know, a single high dose of psilocybin is like doing a mental reset and a physical reset,
It's like 2 years
right?
of psychoanalysis.
You know,
Yeah. I
whereas
mean,
in the SRIs, like the serotonin uh, reuptakes,
reuptake
these
inhibitors.
guys, all they do is make you have high highs, low lows, and they just like smooth out the peaks and valleys. And you have to keep taking them. And sometimes you have to take higher and higher doses in order to see the effects.
Yeah, and also it's like when there's been some studies about this. Man, I hate saying this all the time. There's been studies,
There's been
but
studies.
anyways, there has been some research. There's been some research. Um, so people they take a control group of people being depressed, uh, but they don't go through S- SSRIs and all that. They just do it cold turkey. They get through it cold turkey, and people that are prescribed those medications. And what happens is the people that get out of it, that actually get over the depression, I think it's slightly higher for the people that actually don't take them. Uh, and this is after a year, right? So they're calculating the results of the outcomes of these two groups after a year, and after that, like I think it's like 3 or 4 years. So basically, to condense all that, is the people that don't take the SSRIs are, I think there's a slight better chance of actually getting out of the depression, but it's fairly equal. But the thing is long term, like in the 3-4 year period, there's no relapse. There's no relapse, and they don't need the medication. As in, people that got out of the depression with the aid of those medications need that medication,
Yeah,
or
you
else they're
become dependent
completely
on it.
screwed.
And that's the issue.
Exactly.
And that's one of the reasons why, as a business model, psychedelics probably aren't that greatest, because you don't need a whole lot of them. And once you take them, you don't have to keep taking them. You can keep taking. They're already self-regulating, right? Because if you take more, it's not going to have the
Exactly.
same effect 3 days later, sort of thing.
Exactly.
But you are still going to,
Yeah, exactly. There's not much money to
right?
be made with them.
Not in the traditional
Yeah.
business models. So they need to figure out a way
Mm-hmm.
to make it profitable for companies in order to lay the groundwork to make these substances legally and accessible.
Well, all you would need is one multi-million, or even better, multi-billion-dollar company that would see that would see, that would see like the a potential market. And I think that potential market would be the actual administering
Well,
like administering
that's what they were
the
saying in that
psilocybin.
YouTube, in that Milton conference, is people would go on retreats.
Yeah.
They'd have a dedicated trip sitter guide, and
Yeah.
they had people in order to help them integrate the experience after, during, and afterwards, right? Because that's the biggest thing
Exactly.
with psychedelics, is
It-
integrating the experience, whether it's a challenging trip or you know,
exactly.
one way or the other. It could be a challenging trip or
Well, it should be a new field, being taught at universities, basically, psychedelic psychotherapy. And I mean, it's not going to be big like antidepressants and stuff like that, but it's definitely going to be more beneficial as a whole for society, and there is money to
well,
be made
because
with
we're
it.
seeing more larger and larger instances of increased depression, anxiety disorders due to the things we talked about earlier, was like the social
Exactly.
media, increased
Yeah.
information dumps. We
Overload, the alienation of human beings, larger population centers, conflicting ideas, cultural ideas being bombarded to you all over the place, and so on and so on. Now, maybe like short term for certain companies, antidepressants is the way to go to make money. But as a whole, for society, these are at best, if not worse,
band-aids,
than putting a small, yeah, exactly, and probably infected band-aids with syphilis and gonorrhea on them,
you know.
type of shit. What we need is, you can even see like psychedelics as rites of passage. I know it sounds tribal, but to be able to make it not only acceptable but encouraged to face the inner demons in yourself, like the scary places, the scary regions in your psyche, it's not an experience to take lightly. And I think if a lot of people would face that type of stuff, most people wouldn't look at the world so superficially, and they'd be a lot harder to be indoctrinated.
That's a oh, indoctrinated. That's my dad's favorite. My dad's favorite word is
Yeah.
indoctrinated.
Yeah. Well, I think your dad is indoctrinated with his own literature there, but
uh,
I think your dad has just found another literature to be indoctrinated by.
True. His truth. His
Anyways,
truth. Anyway.
you know what I mean? Like, we're all indoctrinated to a certain extent, but most people aren't even aware of their
Well,
indoctrination.
yeah.
They don't think they think they have absolutely free will, and every brilliant thought they have is like their own. Um, I think psychedelics kind of breaks that type of idea of like you're like some special island in control of everything inside of you, and you're building everything that's happening in your life
In your control.
is uh, in your control. And what's funny, what a lot of people do is like everything that's good is their doing, but everything bad that happens, they always point the finger at someone else, or at something
Well,
else,
that's
the
right.
government, or the
Stupid
street
government.
gangs,
Yep.
or the
Or
yeah,
the
things I'm
economy,
doing
right?
better. Yeah, exactly. And the thing is, it's I mean, like, reality is a lot more nuanced than that. And I think psychedelics, if more people as a whole would use, and it's not only the use itself of psychedelics, not only the psychedelic experience. I think if we come to a point where, like, us human beings should go that route and face inward so we can be better outwardly, that would represent a huge shift in human consciousness, or in cultural
Yes.
consciousness, right? Just to get to that government's on board with that, private companies are on board with that, and most of society as a whole is on board with that would represent in itself. You can even extract the compound out of this equation. Just having that mentality would be a huge shift in the mentalities that I think would benefit the human race immensely. And you add like a powerful compound or powerful substances like DMT, LSD, psilocybin, and MDMA that can really treat uh, mental issues like we've been seeing pop up and go up like crazy. Um, yeah, let's hope that some of that, we're going to see more of that. And God bless Tim
Well,
Ferris
he's a
for
public
doing what he's
figure, right?
doing
And
with
he
that.
has sway, and he's not he has pull
He's
in
not.
different areas, right? So
He does.
I hope
Yeah.
it continues on that way, and in the next 5 to 10 years, we're going to start seeing some of the fruits of the labors.
Oh yeah. Well, I remember when I was talking to you, and you weren't even really familiar with any of this 4 or 5 years ago. Um, I was like, mark my words. What we're seeing with weed, we're going to start seeing with psychedelics. And it's been 4 or 5 years. I was telling you, in 4 or 5 years, it's going to start being legalized in certain places. And look, it's legalized in Oregon now.
Colorado,
Or at least in
Colorado,
Portland, Oregon, I think. Colorado. Yeah,
the
exactly.
Netherlands as well.
So it's already
Netherlands
started.
is legalized.
Yeah.
It's just another tool, right? In a sense too, right? Like if you again,
Yeah.
go ahead.
What I was saying is that they're going to start seeing that psychedelics are not as harmful as what they thought it was, and it has a lot more benefits of what they thought it had. In the same respect as marijuana, because I remember like when I introduced that shit to you, like what was like the general information you had about psychedelics before I even mentioned it to you?
Honestly, nothing. Like I've never even, like, to that point, I'd never even met or known anyone who had, at least in my town or my sphere, besides weed or drinking or cocaine is usually the one that people go to. But psychedelics are, like, at least where I'm from, are usually hard to come by, and I honestly was just being open minded, and I was just going to take it with an open mind.
Yeah. But like, yeah, you didn't have like a very negative, like it didn't have like, I'm asking at this point, like, did it have like a very negative connotation? Like, oh my God, yeah, that shit fries your brain.
I think it would have been different if you'd offered me LSD. I think because I come from a farming background, I know what a mushroom is. I know what it looks like.
Yeah.
I go pick mushrooms in the woods. I know how to find like edible mushrooms. To me, it was just a natural extension of my upbringing anyways. And it was just serendipitous that I was there at that time, and that's what you had, and that's what we tried. And you didn't really think I would have you weren't sure what my reaction was going to be.
Right. Yeah, so true. But I think I had started talking to you about mushrooms and psychedelics as a whole, like a few months before you even came down, right?
This is 2015, right?
Yeah.
Like this is close to 4.5 years ago. It's actually really hard to. I remember the feeling, and I remember the texture of the conversation, but I don't remember the substance and the content of the conversation as well as I probably should. Right?
Yeah,
I was just like, I have this thing. Yeah. You want to try it? I'm going to be here with you. Like, we're not going to do a whole lot. Like,
no. But it wasn't even like trying to get you, because like that when you came down, I didn't even really have an intention to do any or offer you any or anything like that. I was just like, because like a few months prior, like we were like I was telling you about my experiences with it and all that, without like trying to influence you to I think I just said, oh yeah, check it out, like all the potentiality and all that, but I hadn't like it wasn't like to offer you any, like that's how I remember it, right? Like I didn't just talk about it.
I honestly cannot recall the specifics of the conversation.
All right, that's fine. Me neither. Like basically my question is, and I think you answered it already, was if you had like a very negative, because you were pretty when it came to drugs and alcohol, you kind of abstained from all that stuff, like even weed, right? Like you had barely smoked. I think you smoked weed once.
Yeah,
in your life.
Yeah. I don't.
So to me, it was probably bad, right? All that stuff was kind of bad.
Uh,
Like before you had that open mind to it.
no, I don't remember it like that, but
Okay.
that's okay. I don't remember having a negative
Okay. All right.
connotation towards mushrooms, at least. Maybe
Okay.
weed,
Gotcha.
maybe especially when I was 19, but the difference between 19 and
Okay.
25 is that's a big difference.
Okay. Okay. That's cool. I was trying to get like actually what
At
you were
19
thinking at that
at
time before
19,
you tried
yeah,
it.
I probably wouldn't have very good associations, but 25 to 19 different.
Okay. Gotcha. Cool, man. So yeah. So even when you were younger, you thought like this was,
Well, honestly,
drugs as a
John, I
whole.
lived in a very sheltered bubble. So,
Yeah.
alcohol, sure, I was aware of.
Yeah.
I probably couldn't even.
Yeah. Even if
I
it's
probably
like
couldn't
deadly.
even. I didn't even have a concept of what LSD or mushrooms was at 19. To tell you the honest truth, it was like not even on the
Okay.
radar sort of thing. Like it just doesn't. It was like a non
Yeah. Yeah.
thing.
Gotcha.
All right, I think we're just about talked out here. How do you feel?
Yeah. Well, I feel that we've covered
All right,
basically everything. Yeah. I just, well, if you can just like close on your view of psychedelics, because we just rambled on what your view was before, before you actually tried them. Uh, how do you see
currently,
psychedelics?
right now in 2019,
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
almost a 30-year-old person. I think they have enormous potential to benefit your personal well-being, whether mental, physical,
Hmm.
emotional, even spiritual. Even there is definitely a potential to abuse if not used correctly in the correct set and setting, meaning with good people around you, a good environment, right? Like not necessarily in a party environment. I wouldn't recommend it, especially for your first time. Um, and I would say start small, like half a tab, quarter tab, half a gram, right? The one thing that I really would like to move into later this year, hopefully towards my 30th birthday, is DMT.
Hmm.
But yet,
Yeah.
I need to make sure that I am 100% mentally, physically, and emotionally, spiritually ready for such a journey. It's,
You wanna do a breakthrough off the bat
I do,
type of thing.
and I think I'm leaning towards doing the
Okay.
ayahuasca route. I don't think that I'm going to have the experience smoking it that I want. Um,
Yeah. It's hard to break through
you know,
supposedly your first time or even first few times
and the
smoking.
grammage required to do that and the amount that I want to do that is almost cost prohibitive. So I think doing it
Yeah.
like orally with ayahuasca might, for me myself personally, would be the way to go. Um,
Yeah. I'm curious
yeah,
about ayahuasca also. I haven't done that. I've smoked it, but ayahuasca. Supposedly the journey is quite different. It's almost like cosmic, interdimensional when you smoke it, but when you ingest it through ayahuasca, it's almost like a earthy, earthy. I don't know who said that, but it's really linked to the planet. You feel that you're extremely linked to the planet, um, and it has a lot more healing potential than smoking it, and a um, better chance of actually exploring yourself and developing more as a human being by taking ayahuasca uh, than smoke than smoking the DMT. It's more a being mind blown when you
right.
smoke it than anything else. Yeah. Well, that's cool. Well, I wish you good luck on that journey. I don't know if you'll be taking it before me, but whoever does it first, we should definitely talk about
Honestly,
it here.
John, I think I plan to come down to Edmonton for my birthday. So
Okay. Yes.
I
Man.
I honestly, I've been thinking about it and how I want to celebrate my birthday, and I really don't want to be around a lot of people this year, and I don't
Yeah.
want it to make
Yeah.
it. I don't want it to be a drunk fest or blah blah blah. I want it to be
Yeah.
my own, my own way of celebrating and a way of getting to the next
I
level
hear you.
in a sense, and that's how I would like
Gotcha.
to proceed with that.
Well, that's cool. I'll be glad. You'll be more
All
than
right,
welcome here, man. And I know you got some good friends besides yours truly.
this is true.
So I think you're in a good spot, man. Yeah, it's plus it's your you don't mind me saying your birthday.
Sure,
Like
go
how old
ahead.
you'll be.
30th.
It's
Yeah,
your big 3-0. Yeah, 3 decades, man.
3 decades.
You know. Yeah. You want to start, it's a good um omen, I guess, if you will, to not get to celebrate your birthday a certain way with a certain intention. It's a good omen on how you'll spend the rest of your 30s, right?
Yes, sir. Things are coming down the pipeline.
That's cool, man. All right, well, speaking of which, it's been
Yep.
an hour and a half now, so I guess we'll be signing off. So well,
And
John Wynn,
Billete.
logging off. Yep. We'll be here next podcast in a
Cheers.
week or so. Cheers.